2023 promises to be an extremely exciting year for Hero MotoCorp. Just some time back, they had a business meeting where they announced that they're going to be launching one product every quarter. And 2023 should also witness the most number of premium bike launches from the company. And now, just a week after this meeting, we have this, the Hero Xtreme 160R 4V. And as the name suggests, this gets a new 4-valve head, which should improve performance by a huge margin. And Hero MotoCorp has also made a bold claim that this now is the fastest bike in its segment to 60 kilometers per hour, 100 kilometers per hour, and even in a quarter-mile drag race. Now, those we will be only able to put to a test a little later when we get the bike back in our base and we can gather all the rivals that this has. But for now, in this video, we're going to be taking a look at what's new on the bike and what it is like to ride. But before I get into telling you all of that, do subscribe to the Evo India channel, like this video, share it with like-minded enthusiasts, and smash that bell icon to stay notified for all things thrill of riding. Right, now before I get to telling you about what this bike is like to ride, how it performs and all of those things, I think we should address styling, because that is going to be one of those key elements when you consider purchasing a bike like this. And now the overall silhouette of this bike is still pretty similar to the Xtreme 160R, and I feel Hero MotoCorp is all the better for it because that bike was already an extremely handsome bike to begin with. But when you look closer, you can see that making this bike sharper and more aggressive was on the top of the priority list of the designers at Hero MotoCorp. Starting with the front end, you have a very similar looking headlight unit, but one that has been revised to look sharper and more aggressive. That is the general theme over here. So it's been raised slightly, it has a slightly different profile, but it is still reminiscent of that 2-valve Xtreme. And I'm pretty sure you've already noticed these fancy golden upside down KYB forks. Now these are single cartridge units, and Hero claims that that will make the bike that much more engaging to ride. Moving behind, you have this new console which shows more information, but then there is this tank. Again, the base shape is similar, but it has these shrouds, this extension, all with the agenda to make it more aggressive. And you also have this nice two-tone color scheme, which I feel looks quite handsome. Coming further behind, you have this twin seat setup. Now you get this twin seat setup with this nice accenting here similar to the two-tone accent of your bike. But the best part is this: if you would prefer the single seat setup that the Xtreme has, you can opt for that on this bike. But I would stick with the split seat setup because it looks quite nice. Now that's it for the styling bits. This color scheme is quite extreme, no puns intended. But if you want a more subtle, a little tamer one, you have two other color options which are on your screen right now. But that's it about styling. What do you think about it? Let us know in the comment section down below. Right, now on to what's possibly the most important update with this bike, this 4-valve sticker. Well, okay, not the sticker. I'm talking about the cylinder head, which now has 4 valves instead of 2. What this does is essentially flatten the torque curve and gives you more performance all across the rev range, and that has actually happened with this bike. It's become a lot more tractable and it's a little more easier to ride. Now, not saying that the previous bike wasn't, but this just feels a lot smoother and a lot more refined. Now this has 5 gears as you would expect a 160cc sporty bike to have, and all of it works rather nicely together. You have good enough punch to get off the line really quickly, and to focus on that, Hero actually had a couple of drag races when they launched the bike, so it was quite interesting to do that. Obviously I didn't have many people I could compete with because of my size, but nevertheless it was still fun. Now on to performance, it does feel pretty sprightly. You can accelerate up to 90 and it does feel pretty fast getting up there. After that, the performance tapers off a little bit, but if you're lighter, you can see a top speed of around 110, 115 on your road fairly quickly. One thing I'm not too fond of on this engine is the throttle calibration. More specifically, the on-off transitions, they don't feel as smooth as I would like it to be, but that is something I can live with given how tractable this bike is. You can comfortably sit at 3000 RPM at 5th gear and just roll on the throttle and gradually get to your top speed. It won't do that extremely fast. If you want to do it fast, you need to drop a few gears, but the fact that it won't judder and won't stall is something you really appreciate when you're out on a casual ride. Apart from that, again, like I said, barely any vibrations to speak of, and if you want to go out cruising, Around 90 kilometers per hour is a comfortable cruising speed. Anything more and you start to feel a bit of vibrations at the pegs and the bars. But again, negligible, not something that I'd complain about, especially if you're wearing gear. The vibrations will be dampened out quite a bit. But yeah, 90-95 kilometers per hour is a reasonable speed to cruise at on Indian highways anyways. And this bike is capable of doing that. So with engine performance out of the way, let's talk about how this bike rides and how it handles, which I think is very crucial for a sport bike in this 160 segment class. It's most probably going to be the first bike of people buying it, and they want something that can do a bit of everything. So does this do that? Let's start with how you sit on the bike. Now, I am not a really large person, but I am 5'10", and certain small bikes do feel cramped. But this feels fairly comfortable. Your foot position is in such a place that you get enough command over the bike when you want to ride fast, tackle a set of twisties, and the handlebar is nice and wide and you don't need to reach to it too much. So you're in a fairly comfortable riding position all day long. Now, the big change apart from the 4-valve engine on this Xtreme 160R, as you can see, are those upside down forks. Now these are KYB sourced single cartridge forks, 37 mm in diameter, and they do give the bike a little more sure-footedness. The overall setup with the front and the rear monoshock, the Showa monoshock to be specific, is rather plush. It tackles all the roads and bumps pretty well, and I was quite happy with the way it took a lot of the undulations that are there on these Jaipur roads. But when you get to sporty riding, because our first stint with this bike was riding it at the handling track at CIT, I felt it was a touch soft for my weight at least. Something that can be addressed for the rear, at least with the 7-step adjustable preload setting. So preload adjustment is something I would have appreciated on this fork, but for obvious cost reasons, I understand why that won't be an issue. So if you're significantly lighter than me, I don't think that should be much of an issue. But if you're on the heavier side, I do feel like this setup does feel a little soft for sport riding. But in terms of handling, this still retains that sharp, agile front end, which allows you to tip into a corner really quickly, and it holds the line also fairly well. There's no surprises here, there's no unnecessary movement. It all feels pretty planted. This is something you come to expect from a bike like this, and especially if this is going to be your first motorcycle, you want the bike to inspire confidence in your riding skill. With this bike, I think you're going to have a great time on the roads. As I said, you can tour comfortably on this. The riding position is great, and yeah, you can also have a good time in the twisties. Now, one thing I want to talk about is the braking setup. Now, there is adequate braking performance on tap here. The bike will come to a halt, and again, no drama there. I like how the ABS is calibrated, but one small nitpick if I had would be that there's not enough feedback when you get on the brakes. It's you need to squeeze it a fair bit before you start getting a lot of braking power, and a sharper initial bite is something I would have appreciated for my riding style at least. But apart from that, this is quite a nice little motorcycle. Right, so if you take a step back and look at this new Hero Xtreme 160R 4V, it is quite a comprehensive upgrade over the 2-valve bike. You get a new 4-valve head which improves the power figures, the torque spread is much nicer now. You get upside down KYB forks on this Pro model, you get a better instrument cluster with more connectivity features, and all of that is really nice. Now these comprehensive upgrades do come with a comprehensive upgrade to the price tag as well. Rupees 1.37 lakh is what you're going to be shelling out for this Pro variant. There are 2 other variants which don't get the upside down forks, but since we have not ridden them, I'm not going to talk about that. Prices for which are on your screen right now. So 1.37 lakh ex-showroom for this bike in this spec with the split seat, upside down fork and the 4-valve engine. Let's set a little perspective. What we feel is the benchmark of the segment right now is the TVS Apache RTR 160-4V. For that, in a similar spec with discs at both ends, you're paying roughly rupees 1.31 lakh. That's 6,000 less than this. And the other bike, which is the primary rival, is the Bajaj Pulsar NS 160, which has also recently received an upgrade that gives it upside down forks. So I'm not going to answer in this video which one you should be choosing, but what I can say is with this upgrade, the Xtreme 160R 4V makes quite a compelling case for itself. And what's next for us is to get this bike, the TVS Apache RTR 160-4V and the NS 160 from Bajaj, line them up together and do a proper drag race to finally answer the question as to which is the best 160cc bike in this class. So stay tuned for that, and in the meanwhile, thanks for watching.